Hi, it's Dr Maria here. I'm joined today by Dr Jarvis from the Child Development Centre, and we're going to talk a little bit about neurodiversity. This is a topic that we talk about quite a lot at work. We have lots of parents ringing us with various concerns, and we thought we'd just try and clear a few things up and hopefully give you some information that's going to be really helpful for you. So thank you for joining us today, Dr Jarvis.
Thank you very much for having me, Maria, and giving me the chance to obviously try and give some information and advice, things that might be helpful for people. As you said, my name is Dr Jarvis. I'm one of the consultant community paediatricians working at the Child Development Centre.
Thank you very much. So I've got some questions, and some of these are things that we have asked quite a lot of us as GPs. So I thought we'd start with, what signs and symptoms would make you suspect ADHD in a child?
Okay, so we would be looking for difficulties with inattention. So that might be being highly distractible. It might be struggling to maintain our attention and focus on a task for a period of time, maybe losing things, forgetting things, struggling to organise ourselves, alongside features of hyperactivity, impulsivity, sometimes acting maybe without thought and thinking about things afterwards. It's those features, but at a level where it's sufficiently severe to be causing a functional impact on their day-to-day life, their social interactions, relationships, school progress, that sort of thing.
Okay, so you're looking at quite a lot of different symptoms there. Do they need to have all those symptoms, or some of them?
Primarily the difficulties with the inattention are there, and sometimes the hyperactivity and the impulsivity to lesser or greater degrees. But like I say, at that level where it's having an impact on either school functioning, social interactions to that sort of degree.
Okay. And another similar question, what would the signs and symptoms you'd expect to see for a child with autism?
So autism, I think when you look at diagnostic criteria, it's quite a negative description. There's lots of talk about deficits. So primarily and key to kind of autism is the difficulties with social interaction and communication. So difficulties with reciprocity, that backwards and forwards of communication, initiating social interactions and friendships and maintaining them. And that alongside difficulties with restrictive, repetitive behaviours or interests, and what we call inflexibility of thought. So really struggling to see things from other people's perspective. And again, similar to ADHD, that occurring at a sufficiently significant level to be impacting on their day-to-day life, their progress within school, social interactions.
And would you have an age where you think that this would be something to start thinking about? Is there a cut-off? Is age a thing to consider in this?
There's no cut-off. So sometimes children will be experiencing features at an early age for something like autism. ADHD, we do kind of suggest that we look at it sort of after 5 because of the variation of norm in early age group is so huge. So levels of activity, impulsivity for younger children is vast as a kind of age range. But that being said, I think what we would stay away from is a kind of, we won't think about these things until a certain age. Actually, if children have really significant concerns about their child's development and function, that we have those discussions kind of with yourself, potentially from primary care through advice and guidance, whenever they come up.
Some parents will call and say that they're concerned about ADHD or autism, but they're only noticing things at home and school haven't really raised any concerns. Is it still worth them asking for some advice, getting a referral? What would happen in that situation?
So sometimes families will feel that there's no concerns from school because there may not have been, say, a school report where it's been raised. There may not have been levels that were sufficiently concerning that school maybe phoned them. But often when I think families have that discussion with school, there may be features within school. It may not be the same, but the features of difficulty within school as well. I think sometimes people talk about masking, and I'm a little bit cautious about the use of the word, because we all, to some extent, will change our presentations in different situations and social circumstances. But there are some young people who will be using lots of strategies, huge amounts of their energy to be able to cope and manage and get through the day. So that's a bit different. But almost always when we have school reports, which we always ask for, there are features within that suggest that maybe this child is struggling or is kind of not thriving in certain areas in a way that we would hope.
And if a child has got some traits of neurodiversity, but nothing that's severe enough to maybe need a referral or a formal diagnosis, is there anywhere that those families can go for help and guidance?
Even without a referral, we would welcome families and young people themselves as well looking on our website. So there's an advice and guidance area on our website that has huge amounts of different resources for different areas, anxiety, sleep, tics, things like that. So explore those, always explore them. Kind of, you don't need a diagnosis for that. Even things like the National Autistic Society website or the ADHD specific websites, those behavioural strategies can always be trialled. People can always kind of look at those. For Plymouth, the Plymouth Information Advice and Support for Special Educational Needs, their website also has some really good resources and courses as well. Parents, I think, are always slightly worried about parenting programs as if it's sort of suggestion of being bad parents, but then they're really useful. Lots of excellent content, and being a parent is the hardest job in the world. Sometimes we just need a bit of extra guidance as to maybe how to approach certain things, and they're really useful for that.
And if you've got other family members that are helping with childcare, grandparents or sort of other people, is that advice available for them as well?
Absolutely. I think I would always be kind of sharing that knowledge with our wider family members and anyone who's looking after your child as well. Certainly as a parent, if you're finding that doing things in a certain way helps, because of something you've kind of learned from online or elsewhere, I would definitely share that with wider family members so that they can do the same things and be consistent. And they also know why you're approaching it like that.
So really, even if you aren't being referred, you haven't got a formal diagnosis, there's lots of stuff out there that can be helpful as a parent, helpful as a caregiver, to just support the child and look at different strategies that may be helping with the concerns you've got.
Absolutely. And, schools are excellent resources as well. They've got lots of information and support that can be put in place. If you're worried about something, start there. Health visitors, school nurses, there are people as well as websites as well.
Yeah, okay. So if someone's been referred and they're on the waiting list for the Child Development Centre, is there any help that they can access whilst they're waiting?
The point of referrals, so we triage all our referrals by one of the clinicians. We'll look at them, so you can get advice at that point. So if there's things that we think would be helpful for sort of follow-up initially, so something like sleep or problems with diet, we will give advice direct to our primary care colleagues to say, please, could you look into this while they're waiting, or referral to the school nurses. We are also developing waiting list initiatives to sort of put people to about waiting well. So there is already some sensory advice and support that can be accessed while you're on the waiting list. And we're trying to develop more content for that as well. If people want to ask for specific things, that we welcome that kind of their input as to what they would like that to look like. And then when you come to see us, obviously that's a slightly different stage, but there are elements that you while you're waiting.
So if somebody's referred to the Child Development Centre, what can they expect from that referral?
Once you've sort of that referral is accepted and we've dealt with the sort of waiting list side of things, when you get to see us, it will be either that initial appointment, if it's a neurodiversity referral, is going to be with either one of the medical team or one of the specialist nurses. And there'll be a full history taken, lots of questions, testing people's memories about when they were little. Also an examination. We always want to consider any other differential diagnoses as well. So we're doing a really thorough assessment at that point. For younger children as well, we'd be looking at developmental assessment at the same time. So it is quite a long appointment. It's an hour. Think about toys, distraction. If there's things that people think are going to be really sensitive and they might not want to talk about them in front of a child, either because they're worried about upsetting the child or things that maybe happen in the family or social circumstances, then either contact us ahead of time and say, I don't want to talk about this, can I tell you now? Or consider bringing another kind of adult that can look after the child, taking in the waiting room, some colouring while we talk about those more sensitive things as well. We don't do any blood tests or anything, so people are worried about that. We don't do that. If people are worried about something, or they want to know who they're seeing or information for the child, then contact us in advance. We want to make people feel comfortable when they come for the appointments.
That's brilliant. So if someone's a bit worried about how their child might interact or be, or are anxious themselves about the appointment, they can contact you in advance.
Absolutely.
And just have a little bit of a chat about what it might look like and how best to engage.
Absolutely. If they want to know who they are, what kind of person they are, that they're going to see, we would always want people to be at ease. And then lots of people have anxiety. The waits are quite long, so it builds up even more when they're waiting. So we want to put people at ease and make them comfortable when they come.
Lovely. So whilst they're waiting, there is access to advice and support, and that should be available or certainly signposted when that referral is accepted.
Absolutely.
Okay. And from the child development side, from your side, when a referral is made, what would you like to have been put in place prior to that? So either from the GP or the parents or the childcare setting.
So I think sort of going back a little bit to that kind of discussion about goals, about what people really want to achieve from a referral, so that we understand and we're sort of trying to approach those right from the beginning. So there'll be some things that can be dealt with and supported within school, some things that primary care might be able to support with. So have worked through some of those things. And then it's about that information gathering, so we get that really rich information about what's been done before, what worked, what didn't, what the remaining concerns are. We are in development of kind of new forms with the ICB, so that hopefully those conversations will be much easier and the content will be kind of straightforward for people to go through. And just have done those sorts of initial things. Sometimes people then don't need to see us. They might have less concern, but we know clearly what people would like from us at referral.
Okay, so if a parent's a bit concerned and they've thought that they might have some behaviours or something that their child might have some neurodiversity, so something really helpful to do first of all would be to talk to the school.
Absolutely.
And if that school could compile a report to help share their thoughts around everything. Is it helpful for the parents to have written down their thoughts and concerns?
Yes, I think that's really helpful, because that little bit around sort of the difference in presentations at home and school, it's trying to piece together that whole picture of children. Sometimes schools will send us things that have like tick box lists, but they don't give us any real picture or sense of that young person. And what we want to really kind of understand is how that young person is functioning at home and at school, what's getting in the way for them, where those worries are, what do we want help from. But absolutely, school, we need lots of information from them, that they see children in lots of circumstances, how they get on with their peers, how they do their group work, things like that. So that's really important for us. Again, like I say, the forms that we're developing hopefully will really guide those conversations. And if things haven't been noticed or picked up or supported in school, that's an opportunity to kind of facilitate that discussion and maybe put in place more support.
And so the parents could also share some information with their thoughts and concerns. And then do the school and the parents need to both agree for a referral to be made, or does the parent just need to come to the GP?
As I say, that would, I think it would become tricky if everyone has to agree. We do need school's information, but it might be that school might say to parents, we don't have any worries. But it's not so much whether they have the concern or not, as long as we have the information around how that child
Part of the puzzle.
Absolutely. We're trying to build that picture again. And yes, those new forms, there is a section for yourselves and colleagues in primary care, a section for parents to really sort of talk about kind of their concerns, worries, what works, what doesn't, and then again for school. So there is a kind of specific section to try and help build that picture. So people who are unsure what we might want to know about, those are questions in there.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Jarvis, for joining me today. I hope you have found this helpful. I hope this has covered some areas that have answered some questions for you. As mentioned whilst we were talking, there's some links to some posts, some websites, some advice, and we'll put them attached to this post.